Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
High-end gaming on any device? Unify your home theater with Caavo and what to look for in a 4K TV. Live from the Twin East Side Studios in beautiful Petaluma, California, it's the new screensavers! Hello and welcome to the new Screensavers. This is episode 155, recorded on May 5th, 2018. I'm golf clapping in your general direction. Yes, we need this. I'm Father Robert Ballecer. Hi, I'm Patrick Norton. Also known as Leo Laporte. No, Leo Laporte is currently in Japan fighting radioactive monsters. That's what he does. Why you gotta be that way? It's just, that's how it is.
He's sampling the finest sushi, taking tea in some of the most sophisticated environs ever developed in
After
humanity.
fighting radioactive monsters. You know, this is how this works. If you're a tech guy, you gotta be the tech guy.
Surely there would have been something on the news.
Yeah. They don't want you to know about it.
There would have been a big Twitter pile-up, and then there'd be links to videos on YouTube.
And then a bunch of people saying, no, that's fake. Pics, video, go.
Quick rule of thumb, should you find yourself in downtown Tokyo with a radioactive monster, or any other part of Japan or the United States, don't stop to videotape it unless you're convinced you want to die and you're saying goodbye. Because there's nothing more pathetic than somebody going, oh my God, it's a giant! With the Bambi meets Godzilla moment. Still the funniest short film ever made.
Indeed, but we're not here to talk about Gojira because we've got a great show and a couple of interesting topics.
This box, right here, promises, this is a Caavo, promises to make everything better when dealing with all of the equipment attached to your home theater.
We've heard that promise before, though, Patrick.
Surely.
Everything promises to be the last device I'm going to need for my entertainment system, but you're kind of convinced this is almost there.
It's doing stuff we've never seen before.
All right.
And may never see again.
I like that. I love the chance to review new tech, and we're going to take an in-depth look. Also, imagine having a high-end, I don't mean a middling, but a super high-end $2,000 gaming PC on tap anywhere in the world at any time on any device you own, from a laptop to a desktop to a mobile phone. We've got it. We're going to be taking a look at it a bit and see if maybe this is the one to crack that streaming video game service.
So we've seen $300 home spy security cameras. We've seen $100 ones. Would you pay $20 for a home security camera?
No, because that's way too low. I need to dish out more cash to know that it's worth it.
What if it actually works?
Okay.
What if Megan Morrone had tested it for you?
Then I'm totally in.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's right. And Jason is also going to show us some of the new features in Gmail. You think that it's a mature product, and it kind of is, but that doesn't mean that there's not room for improvement.
And sometimes the improvements need to be improved. But Jason will tell you all about that. Call for help. We help a viewer looking for a new 4K TV. Plus, we answer more questions in the mailbag.
That's right. But first, let's go ahead and kick it off with our hot topics.
New
this
t-shirts?
has been a kind of a crazy week. We've had a couple of interesting stories. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it's stuff we kind of have to draw out. But this has been a week where we can select the stories that we want to talk about.
Good week for affordable VR.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oculus releases the Go, which is essentially glasses without the phone. I should say phone, but without the phone. Actually, it's pretty spectacularly functional. I think the onboard speakers are much better than they have any right to be and incredibly convenient. And I'll have a full review of that on Tech Thing next week, along with Lenovo's new Mirage Solo, which is the other Android-powered headset that came out this week.
Now, some people are saying, wait a minute, isn't this just like Google Cardboard? It's like putting the phone in front of your eye. No, this is actually a lot better. I had a chance to test this at the Oculus event a while back, and there is something about having a competent, decent headset on your head that is untethered, 100% untethered.
More important, well, yeah, it is untethered. You don't have to be like, I'm going to take slot A into tab B and Velcro my $700 phone. This is $200. It has everything you need, and the screen is way better than it has any right to be for the money inside of it.
Now, one thing I want to see if they fix this from the prototype, which is It does a couple of degrees of freedom, but it loses tracking over time. And we've seen this on a lot of the inside-out products where because you don't have fixed sensors in the corners of the room, over time you tend to drift.
The Oculus Go I bought to test arrived about 10 minutes before I left the house this morning to come up here. Ask me next week.
Yeah. It'll be good news. If you're a VR aficionado, this is exciting times because it's not just the Go. You're going to see some other products heading out into the market, and the products that are already here are going to be improved because the Go is not the only product that Oculus/Facebook is working on. They've got some new stuff that
so many.
It's actually going to blow you away.
Facebook. You know what? Remember all the mistakes you watched your friends make in high school trying to date people through Facebook? Facebook's decided to make it official. Facebook is going to do dating.
Here's the thing.
Think of all the online tracking opportunities.
This is like doing Facebook all over again. Remember when you first signed up for a Facebook account and it was like, oh yeah, you want this information, you want this information? It will help connect me to the people that I remember from high school. Well, fast forward a decade plus, and now Facebook is saying, okay, with all this history behind us, we want to do it again. Now just give us your your deepest, darkest sexual interest, and we'll hook you up with people that you want.
I don't know if
that sounds really good and attractive.
Especially after Facebook's news in the last couple of weeks. Just imagine the wonderful conversations Mr. Zuckerberg will be having with Congress in just a few months.
Yeah, if I'm dealing with Facebook and they've got all your fetishes, it gives a data leak a whole new meaning.
Oh my goodness. I feel so many bad thoughts there. I feel like it may have been last week, but also everybody who was promising to keep WhatsApp secure and safe left.
Actually, for me, that's a bigger piece of
That would be
news.
the founders, yeah.
Yeah, because you had the CEO of WhatsApp, you had the guy who started it all, and he was basically the lone soldier at the fence. He was saying, no, I know you want this data, but this is my company.
You shall not pass.
Precisely. And by all accounts, this was just him saying, look, I'm tired of fighting this. Yeah. I'm a billionaire. Fine, you go take it and destroy this product that I built that I love. I'm out. Yeah. And now there is no protection. Everyone at WhatsApp and everyone at Facebook is now totally okay with using everything that you have on that service.
You don't know that? I'm sure there's several middle managers inside of Facebook that are just slavering at the opportunity to be different and protect the data of those billions of users outside of the United States.
Right, but you needed that one guy who said, we're not doing this. The only way you're going to do this is to have Mark come down here and tell me that this is what we're doing. That's what he did. Right. There's no one left at WhatsApp who can do that.
Signal.
Cleansing breath. Cleansing breath. Of course, we do have to talk about Twitter because Twitter didn't have a great week.
I spent a lovely morning yesterday changing the password on every Twitter account in my life because apparently somebody kind of, left all of the password data for 330 million users on an unprotected server.
Now, okay.
Hate it when that happens.
Let's break this down because I have a little sneak peek into how some of their infrastructure works. Obviously, this was a front-end
one normally doesn't
server.
admit to hacking.
No. I mean, this was friendly, just taking a look at stuff.
You were invited in.
I was invited in, and their authentication server is separated from everything else.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing, right? Because you don't want an owned authentication server to have access to the database. The problem was they had their monitoring tools turned on to the point where it was logging everything off of that authentication server, which happened.
There's a thin line between monitoring and copying everything.
Yeah, and that is a problem. It is a problem. But here's the thing: there has been so much outrage, and honestly, I'm upset with Twitter because this is incompetence.
This is a big oops.
This is a huge oops. But they caught it. Yes. Not someone else didn't catch it. They think no one had access to this log server, even though it was unsecured. And
so it's like the purloined letter where you leave the really incredibly important letters out on the table and everybody's like, Bill, whoa.
It's okay. It's okay.
And it actually contains a check for $1 million or something.
Precisely. But then the other thing is they told everybody. Yeah. Now, they didn't have to. I don't mean this in the snarky way of, well, they didn't have to tell you. I mean, they could have sat on it because that's what a lot of other companies have done. But they decided to play it transparent. The amount of hate that they have received over the last 48 hours is amazing. And people are comparing them to Equifax and to Yahoo, and I'm thinking, no. Equifax and Yahoo, they deliberately suppressed the information because they were worried about
and in some cases sold stock before the information was made public.
Yeah.
Enjoy prison,
It's not just a breach. It's
Sorry,
a
did I
felony.
say that out loud? No, I didn't. Good.
No, but Twitter.
Yeah.
No matter what you think, they're trying to do the right
Equifax
thing.
is one of the most egregious instances I have ever seen, where not only did they hide it, not only did they suppress it, not only did executives sell stock before the news became public, and then their response to it was it was even pathetic for Equifax. Like now, and I've paid Equifax money on and off for years for like different services they offer, but it's just like, really, taking customer service and your relationship to the people to a new low. Equifax. Just, I don't normally say this, but, if you're an investor, just feel free to hammer the stuff out of that stock.
The sad thing
they
is
deserve to be punished.
They actually benefited from it. Their profits went up. Their stock went up because of the way that everything is structured. Because there was really no penalty for them doing what they did.
Turns out it's like banking.
Right.
Well, we kind of took out the American economy, but we made all of our bonuses. We're going to keep doing stuff. And by the way, the whole tranche aggregation thing, we came up with a new name for it. We're going to take out the economy again. Thank you, American people. Woo!
That's right. It's not called a tranche anymore or a CDO. What do they call it? What the new name is?
I got so angry when I heard that story, I just turned off the radio.
Same thing. Yeah. It's the exact same thing. No, but again, back to Twitter.
Yeah.
I was at a keynote a while back from Daniel Gear over at Black Hat, and he had this phrase that stuck with me and with my co-host from This Week in Enterprise Tech, and that is 100% transparent failure.
Yes.
When you fail, you have to tell the people, your customers, your clients, that you have failed. But on our side, that means if they're transparent with us, we have to be gentler to them than we are with a company that tried to hide it from us.
It's also, and I feel happy calling to task a lot of the news articles where this was, Twitter exposes entire password universe, you are screwed. And first of all, we all know that the vast majority of tweets never get looked at, even by the people who wrote them. Number two, and they did a pretty horrible job of being like, Twitter accidentally exposed passwords, but as far as I know, no one actually took them or looked at them or copied them. Now, maybe it turns, I get it. I get what you're saying. Because they did the right thing. They did it as quickly as they could. They were flat out up front saying, everybody changed this, to the point where, should you ever actually log out of Twitter, which you may not actually do if you're like me, as soon as you log back in, it's going to be like, hey, we had a thing.
Listen, dude,
can you change your password like now?
I know this is annoying, but maybe you could. Yeah, actually, I'm like you. I had to log myself out.
But they're actually forcing. And how many times have we had places where there have been a breach where you could continue using the old password?
Yeah.
So Twitter just, Sorry, Twitter.
Yeah, they're kind of a test case here, but I believe that if we want the entire industry to be responsible, we have to be gentler with the companies that are at least trying to do the right thing. Maybe it's ham-fisted right now.
Trying to do the right thing.
The right thing. Maybe it's ham-fisted right now, but at least it's a start. And this is how I would want other companies, other tech companies that have my personally identifying information to act if they do something that puts that information at jeopardy. There we go. All right.
And from that very serious moment, let's take a step over.
Yeah, let's go ahead
across the building.
Down to memory lane or news desk, whatever we call it. What we want to do is we want to take a look at something that...
Blade.
Yes, it's a
and
blade.
Shadow.
You put those words together,
you
get
new
something
fantasy
awesome.
movie coming out this summer. No, actually.
Now, this is a concept that we have seen for over a decade. It is something that has so much promise, and yet sometimes it has been a little bumpy as far as adoption and implementation is concerned. Thank you very much for coming to see us. Now, of course, you've got your gear set up here, and we are speaking...
This is Asher.
That's
he
right.
co-founded Blade. Blade is doing online gaming, and I mean, you're saying you're giving the equivalent of a GTX 1080, a Xeon or an i7 equivalent processor.
Dedicated core that you're getting, and you're getting basically equivalent to $2,000 PC that will always stay.
Was that $2,000 with current 1080p value, MSRP of 1080p, or the value 4 weeks ago?
It's the value usually before the high rise, when you can find where you cannot find even for $1,000 GTX 1080. Yeah.
So how much am I paying a month?
So you're paying $35 per month.
Okay.
And you're getting a computer that you can access it from everywhere, from any device, any screen.
Actually, let's make that clear, because some people might think, oh, it's just games on tap. This is a full Windows 10 desktop.
Exactly. I don't know if they can see the screen here, but basically here we have the shadow box. So the shadow box is optional, and it can replace your desktop PC. So the goal of a shadow is that you will feel that the Windows is running here on this small box.
Right. Even
if this small box taking only 15 watt of power, and basically it's doing nothing than just to decode the video stream that's arriving from the cloud. So as you can see, we're getting a full Windows here. We have dedicated components that we're getting from the cloud. And unlike other solutions in the past, we are doing end-to-end solution, which means that we are building our own servers. We're putting them in our own rooms in the data centers, so we can give a dedicated component to each user. So you are not sharing your graphic card with other users. You are not sharing your CPU cores with other users. You're getting your own component, so you will always have the same level of high performance.
Okay, if you got to switch to this, because I mean, I'm watching his movement, and it actually is. I don't see much lag.
You can play yourself if you want to feel.
In fact, the lag that I see, I could probably attribute to the fact that it's going through a switcher, the TriCaster, a scaler, and then back here.
Capturing the screen also. Yeah.
Watch me run off a cliff really quickly.
Now, when I install this on a 5-year-old laptop, I have an Acer S7 that it's an Ultrabook. It had no power when it was new, and now it's very long in the tooth. I was able to run modern games. I was able to run Call of Duty. And it
you can play the last Far Cry 5 on a 5-year laptop on the max setting of Far Cry, and you can run it on a 4K resolution or 144 FPS, and we are the only one in the market because we did an end-to-end solution. It's also, we developed all the software that's doing the capturing, encoding, and streaming, and we succeed to achieve to less than 3 milliseconds for the most complicated frame of 4K.
So this is not a shared server. This is not a virtual machine. This is an actual, as actually Father Robert ran into saying, you were actually configuring Windows 10 when you set up your account, and you're actually getting your own dedicated GPU?
Exactly. You're getting your own fully dedicated for you GPU. You're getting your own CPU cores and your own memory, and you're getting 256 gigabytes of storage, and you're getting a full Windows 10. So you can install Steam, you can install Origin, you can install any platform and download all your games and play them directly on a full setting.
Do you have to put colo centers all over the, I mean, is the United States, the world, where are you guys currently selling?
So right now we launched in West Europe last year, and now we're doing soft launch here in California to really familiar and getting all the information about the internet infrastructure here, how to deal with it, how to learn also the market. The gamers here are actually very different from the gamers in Europe.
Okay.
So we're learning, we're interacting with our community, and until this summer we're going to cover all US nationwide.
Okay. Okay, I have to ask this because I get the value proposition. The value proposition is I pay $420 a year, and I get a PC that is automatically updated. So it's updated on your side. I don't have to worry about it.
$50 a month.
Or $50 a month.
$35 basically for
if you want to go month to month.
Yeah.
But then, and Patrick brought this up in the pre-show, I have to be concerned about what I've seen happen to other streaming services where they were all killed by lag. Every single one of them was killed by lag because you can't do a high-performance, Twitch-capable gaming system over just the regular latency that you're going to get on the internet. So how do you fix that? I mean, obviously, I can't do that with RDP, so this isn't RDP.
Yeah.
But what do you have? What's your secret sauce?
So basically, like I said, because we develop end-to-end solution, we are also doing our own protocols for the streaming that's capable to reach much, much better results than any standard streaming so far. And actually, so far, the biggest blocker was not on the network itself, but was on the capturing and encoding and all this process that's taking more time than the network. The network, you can simply overcome it by placing data centers next to the end client, not far away, to have a good peering agreement with all the internet providers like Comcast, AT&T, all of those. and to have peering on the other side. Now,
So it seems like we are not.
It,
you have already thought about all of the trauma that we have run through in all of the previous gaming services.
but look, for example, what's a small advantage that we give to you. I don't know what's your internet speed here. I guess it's around 200 megabit or something like that.
We've got a decent connection.
If you're going here, but actually here we are from our data center. So you use your computer, even if you have 15 megabit at your home, you're still getting download speed of 1 gigabit per second.
Okay.
You're getting super low ping time. So actually when you're playing online game and competitive games, you're getting lower ping than your local PC because we have a direct
You're basically
data
sitting in the
center
colo and not
infrastructure.
dealing with all of the
Exactly.
cruft at the ISP. So I can, and we talked about this before, this isn't just gaming. If I want to run Adobe Premiere on this, I can do that if I want to run. Okay.
It's your Windows 10. You can install whatever you want on it, but much more than that, you can start to play in your room, in your shadow box, and then you need to go to the kitchen. I can take my tablet. I can launch either iOS, either Android. I don't know if you can see the tablet here. I'm launching the Shadow app, and I can continue. I can directly continue to play on the tablet.
This is getting pretty meta at this point.
I don't know if you ever saw this kind of
Wait a
level of
minute.
graphic on
What
a
is
$200
happening?
tablet.
Okay, that's not bad. That's actually.
And we can play directly without any latency, any kind of game for PC, directly on the tablet. And much more than that, you can take your smartphone. So this is my personal iPhone. I don't know if you can see the screen of it, but we are on LTE connection. We are not on the Wi-Fi. We are directly on the LTE connection, and I can launch the Shadow application. And here we have the Shadow Beyond, which, you know, it's not easy to use the Windows UI directly on a phone screen. So it shows me all the games that I have installed on my computer, and I can launch them directly. So we can launch the Tomb Raider, and I can play directly on my iPhone without any latency, any lag on a 4G connection.
Okay, that looks really, really good. I'm just going to say that.
And
Wow.
you can do it any kind of in any kind of place, in the underground, in the street. You can continue to play whatever you want directly. And of course, on a Mac computer, which is very nice design computer. I love the design of this computer. The weight, the screen is amazing.
But there's no Windows key.
But exactly, you don't have. Actually, you can do the command keys switching to be the
know.
Windows key, but you can finally play any kind of Windows game directly on the Mac screen, on the nice Retina display. It's affecting immediately, and you can have full Windows. So you can put your Photoshop, you
That's
can
the
do
part I
all
actually
your tools.
liked. I love the fact that I had a full Windows environment.
Exactly.
Because I can install anything on top of that, and it gives me a super capable machine. Now, I know that when I first started up the client, it asked me about my bandwidth conditions. I know it's like 31 is a magical number, right? If I can get to 31, then I get the next level up. But what's
31 megabits per
31
second.
megabits per second. But I've run it on 20 megabits per second just fine. What's the lowest they can go and still get a decent experience?
So now, basically, on the beta version, we're testing the 5 megabit connection.
5.
And what you saw here, actually, on the iPhone, it's a 5 megabit connection. You can see on the setting here, basically. And this is a beta version for the Android. And it can go down up to, we can go from 5 megabit up to 50 megabit per second. So here we are on the 5 megabit per second. And it can, so we're asking basically for minimum of 15 megabit per second from the client to make sure that if his wife or someone else watching Netflix or that he will still have enough bandwidth to keep the system stable, and that they will not get the effect of the previous solution that was not stable enough. And we always, of course, monitoring the traffic on the client to see how much bandwidth we have available at exactly moment. We also developed a nice application that's measuring the jitter and the gap between the UDP packets that's arriving. So when we think that packets starting to go out of order, or when we think that the gap is not stable, then we know that there is a storm coming, and then we can adjust the bandwidth, and because we are doing the encoding in live, unlike YouTube and Netflix that have several preset stream that they can switch between them, we have all the 1,000 parameter of the H.264 and H.265 encoding that we can play and change with them to adjust it directly to your bandwidth.
That actually answered one of the questions I had, because I was wondering how you were doing this. You just mentioned you were using UDP.
Yeah.
So this is not a consistent connection. You're basically blasting out packets. What do you have on the other side to make sure those packets get assembled in the right order?
So that's exactly the program that we have that's monitoring the packets and making sure that every packet arrives at the end,
Right.
because like you said, on UDP you have no security at all that the packet will arrive. So, and this program is always in connection, and this is happen on a TCP channel. It's always in connection.
So you've got a
back to the server
TCP IP control channel, and then you're using UDP
for the
all
streaming and all the
that makes
data.
sense.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So what is the website if people are now slavering with desire to get onto a
So if you're in California, you can go to shadow.tech. And you can order directly and get it now directly your shadow box. The shadow box it's available, so you can get the service on any platform. We have clients for Windows.
You don't
for
need the
Android
box.
You don't need the
It's
box.
an option.
The box, we just finished the FCC certification right now, so we are going to start to sell it very soon, also in the US. But for now, you can use it on Windows. You can use it directly on your smart TV. You can play 4K on your TV without any console connected to your TV, without anything connected to your TV.
You've even got it on a Shield here.
You can have it on the Shield. You can have it
That's kind of cool. A full Windows 10 box on a Shield.
Finally, something useful to do with my Shield.
I mean, here's the thing, and I think Patrick and I are both on the same point here. It's a great presentation. The technology looks fantastic in this test. We're going to be cautiously optimistic because, again, we've seen technologies like this die, but I do like the fact that you are using UDP. I do like the fact that you have a control channel. I do like the fact that this is so multi-platform and that you were willing to show it off here over a Wi-Fi network. That kind of shows
studio
confidence.
Wi-Fi network.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean we're still improving the product every day. We're working, we're getting the feedback, we're fixing the small issues that users encounter. But already today we have 20,000 users in West Europe. We basically sold last month in France. We sold 20% of all the new gamers PC that was selling nationwide in France, and we are not selling a PC actually. We're selling a service. So
I feel confident that if it was not working, people would not be buying it still.
Exactly.
Exactly. And really the only limiting factor is as you start getting clumps of customers, you move into those local data centers.
Exactly, yes. Now we are in the process of building a data centers on the East Coast, on the center, on the Southeast Coast, and all around to make sure that on the end summer we will have a nationwide coverage in the US.
You know, if you got into a couple of mobile ISPs data centers and got a 0 rating from them, that would make everything even more popular.
Also working on
Throw that out there. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Thank you very much for sharing this. Again, let's give you some plug time. Where do you want them to go if they want to test out Shadow and everything else you've got?
So you can go directly now to shadow.tech. You can register there. You can download the application for all the platform possible, for Android, for iOS, for macOS, for Windows. And you can play right now any game you want on any machine you want, even if it's a 5 years old laptop.
Yeah. I'm sold.
Asha, thank you
so
very much. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. A $20 WyzeCam. Can a $20 1080p security cam be worth installing in your home? Megan Morrone's got the word for you. Stay tuned.
Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. Just kidding, but I will be watching my family with this little Wyze camera. This is version 2 of the Wyze camera. It has 1080p, full HD night vision, two-way audio motion and sound detection, and continuous recording with a micro SD card. There isn't much difference from the original WyzeCam, except for the base is matte instead of glossy. Plus, it'll only cost you $20. That's right. $20. It has a clever magnetic base, so you can stick it right to the fridge or to anything else magnetic. It also comes with adhesives, so you can mount it to non-magnetic surfaces. You can swivel, twist, and even stack the cameras if you have more than one. Arrange them in a circle for 360-degree video, and you can even run them off the same power supply. If you want to capture a time-lapse of the day or of a special event, you can do that too. This $20 camera also includes free 14-day cloud storage. When it detects movement, it records a 10 to 15 second long clip and then uploads it with end-to-end encryption. The setup for this camera is ridiculously simple. Plug it in, pair it to an iPhone or an Android phone by scanning the QR code on your phone, and everything else is pretty obvious. If you want to do the fancy stuff, you'll have to add your own SD card. So how is this camera so cheap? Are they selling our data to the highest bidder, streaming our most personal moments behind a paywall somewhere? Apparently not. The company says they keep costs low by partnering with more efficient manufacturers and by selling directly from their website. Now, if you buy it from Amazon or elsewhere, it's going to cost a little more than $20. And they also say they're not aiming for a high profit margin over their cost base. All that makes me want to buy 20 of these cameras and put them all over my house. Right now, I will probably just stick to one, the Gilbert Cam. And one of these days, I am absolutely sure I will catch something exciting. I'm Megan Morrone, and you can catch me every week on iOS Today on Tuesdays and Tech News Weekly on Thursdays.
Thanks, Megan. Now, I've also given Megan a couple of other cameras, so she's going to give us a roundup of all her favorites.
A roundup.
A
bake-off.
We love them. Now, just so you know, this is my 5-year-old laptop, and that is Shadow running in a window on my 5-year-old laptop. And this is a full-featured, full-performance Windows 10 PC, running over the spotty wireless for the guest network here. I'm actually very, very impressed.
It is very impressive.
I kind of want to run it through a network analyzer just to see what it looks like, because
that's the kind of guy you are.
Chaos on the other side. But something that's not chaos is when you get that perfect entertainment system. Now, we've all dreamt about it, right?
There is no perfect entertainment
No, there
system.
must be. It's out there.
Take it back. Take it back. The closest to a perfect entertainment system I've seen, a friend of mine, Jason Lord, Source AV, Torrance, California. If you have an amazing AV need, a home theater need, dude will take care of you if you want to spend a little money, all the money. But he has 6 different rooms set up, and it is some of the most flawless home theater demos I've ever seen. I, however, live in the real world, with bills to pay and children and budgets and stuff like that. But I am aspirational. And as far as we've seen, kind of like the pinnacle of dealing with, okay, we got an AVR remote.
Oh, wait, I know what you're going to say.
We got a Roku remote.
I know what you're going to say. It's the integrated interface inside your smart TV, right? Because that's the perfect thing. It works for everything. No, I don't think so.
No, actually, so Robert Heron, I co-host AV Soul, Robert Heron. It was about 8 months ago, I cornered Robert Heron with a stick. And I told him he just stop reviewing the operating system on televisions, because we both know. I'm like, is there one that's still working 2 years after? And he's like, And I was like, just plug an Apple TV or a Roku box and it wouldn't be done, which is really kind of the best advice you can get. But this is Caavo, right? So we're setting up a problem. Like the best all-in-one solution we've seen is essentially the Logitech Harmony system, right? Where you punch in your devices, it squirts those down to a remote control. I'm gonna watch a Blu-ray, and all of the cool things happen in your Blu-ray player launches or your Apple TV launches or whatever it is.
It's the grandparent test. Can you give the control to your grandfather, grandmother, and let them go at it? And it will work 100% of the time. And you're right, that Logitech remote got very close, but then it kind of went away.
Well, it's still here. It's just people don't talk about that much. This is a Caavo. Now, what is the first thing you notice about Caavo?
It looks kind of like a surfboard, dude.
It does look kind of like a surfboard, but look, this is wood. Ooh. I was gonna say it's not black shiny plastic, but actually it is black shiny plastic, but there's wood, which means it's a little more aesthetically appealing. There is 8 HDMI input. Well, let me do this without putting my finger in front of the camera. There are 8 HDMI input ports on here, one that goes into your television, an Ethernet connection, a couple of USB connections, an IR blaster connection, and yes, kids, it does need a power cable, but all of those are hidden. So
all with cable management. That's actually really important because you don't want a rat's nest right next to your central entertainment center.
I have not yet found a cable management system that I cannot make look like a king rat's nest, but that's neither here nor there. So what's interesting about this is, if we can pull it up on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, let's say...
I know what you want.
Here, start watch and then ask for the movie.
Play The Hitman's Bodyguard. Or watch The Hitman's Bodyguard. I probably just confused it.
You just confused it. Oh, there we go. It picked up. Look at that. So 3 things just happened there. It's one, we didn't have to go. Can we pull back to me for a second? It didn't have to be like this into the remote. I'm sorry, I'm channeling my dad. It's a long story. And 2, all you gotta do is hit the microphone button on here and talk. So, like it just happened. Watch Hitman's Bodyguard. And if you don't say it properly, you end up confusing it, which is unkind to the Caavo. Watch Ren and Stimpy. So what's going to do is it's now actually like, look, kids, it's pulling up Ren and Stimpy. That's content. That's not launch the Apple TV. That's not launch the Roku. And I can choose what to watch on. It's available on Amazon. It's on iTunes. It's on Vudu. So what this does is it takes all of your devices, it combines them into one interface with one remote control with one set of voice commands, and it does things like this. If I hit the big Caavo button, it's going to pop up from the bottom. If I hit the Caavo button, it's going to, there it is.
There we go.
And I've got, whoops, the settings, because I was getting too enthusiastic on live television. For example, the watch list. This may be my favorite thing, where in one space, you can look at everything that you or your family members have been watching, not because you're trying to spy Megan Morrone.
So when it's bringing up Amazon Prime or Netflix or Showtime or HBO now, this is all running in the Caavo, right? This is not on another box it's connected to.
This is basically an overlay from the Caavo.
Nice, okay.
And what that is telling me like, oh yeah, I want to finish watching skateboarding's first wave, because watching documentaries about sporting events I wasn't around for.
Documentaries about the Baja, is it, what is it now?
1,000.
1,000. I wanted to say 5,000. That sounds way too much.
There was a Baja 2000, that's a long story.
No.
But the idea is like all of the stuff that you've been watching. So instead of being, like normally you might go to, let's go play Netflix. And so what's nice about this, what I love about that watch list display is instead of going into Netflix, now it's switching, it takes a little time switching. If you are a high-speed thumb jockey that moves fast in between applications, you might find this part a little frustrating. If you're living a more leisurely lifestyle, and the idea of simply speaking
Now, when you
to
did that, it
Jarvis-
said it went Netflix on Apple TV, and it's
Yes.
just making that choice for you.
And there's crazy stuff in the back. Well, I can associate Netflix with the Apple
Got
TV
it.
or the Roku or whatever. It won't control the applications on your television. I should warn you that now. But so now normally we go to Netflix and be like, oh yeah, I need this person. And then I'm going to scroll through 22 layers of Netflix menus because it's Tuesday and Netflix decided to put the stuff you were watching 17 layers down instead of near the top where you want it.
Or my personal favorite, because
now
my
see
father
today-
keeps logging into my account. He's messed up my playlist, so now I'm watching all his bad B series from the 1980s. That's the thing. I gave him, he's got his own thing. He's got his own icon. He still uses mine.
Nothing really complicates your Netflix suggestions like somebody else showing up at your house for 3 days. But so, what this does though is it goes beyond. It's not just a remote control.
Right.
It is, it is applying intelligence. It's applying machine vision, because basically what it is doing is pretending it's a creature, a human, a remote control operator, and it's like launching Apple TV, and then it's clicking around and opening things up. It's trippy. It's fascinating.
Is it there yet?
It is very much an early adopter product.
Okay.
And I talked to a couple other people who have been playing around with this. They're doing 5,000 units of this year. They cost $400 each. So it is 4K ready. It is 1080p ready. I suspect for a lot of people who would spend $400 for a device to solve their problems vis-a-vis remote controls and getting to their content with less trauma, they would want HDR support for that, which this does not have. And they basically flat out said the chipsets aren't ready, we couldn't do that, this is what we can do. And it is one of those things where when this is running, it is so cool. And I don't really get excited about products anymore because
you've seen literally tens of thousands.
Yeah, I've seen entirely too many, but it was really cool to have it work. But there's also some stuff, if it does not have a service index, for example, when you set it up, there's like Netflix, and there's HBO Go, and HBO Now, and Showtime, and
So
this
it hasn't
and
been
everything.
populated yet.
Right,
It's
but
just
if
blank.
I want to do something like watch Call the Midwife, and notice out of reaction, despite the fact that holding the remote control halfway across the room works just fine, let me try that again. A
band called Death is kind of like The Midwife.
Not Masterpiece
to be
Theater,
honest.
but probably very entertaining. Watch Call the Midwife. And I want to say right now, as somebody who always has trouble with voice recognition, this has been shockingly good. Some of the best, voice recognition I've ever worked with. But look, it's got Call the Midwife, and I'm going to go watch on, and it doesn't have, because it doesn't aware of the service, it doesn't have the PBS stuff with the latest season that my wife has been watching. So at that point, it's like, let's go back to the Apple TV. And
that's a problem though, because I mean that's a huge annoyance when someone goes, "Oh, I can watch the show," and then suddenly it tells them, "Oh, well, you have to subscribe to something else."
Well, you don't necessarily have it, but this is also this is a very young device.
Yeah.
This is the first time it's been released to the public, and if I go to PBS, so right now I'm in Netflix, and I'm going to click back, and now I go to PBS. But if they index PBS in the future, and I don't see why they wouldn't, they will be able to add all that stuff on there. Let me pause that before somebody sees something and has to have a conversation about where babies come from. Sorry, parents out there.
Call the midwife. That's what they do. No,
but it was
the hardware. The hardware looks really good, and it looks solid. The software they can improve. The service they can improve. They can give us more
software.
options, more intelligence.
The software is much more finished than I really expected it to be. Because I will also say, when I opened this up, you guys, you should review this. And I was like, I will review this. And I'm like, it's so pretty. It's going to be a nightmare to run. And I will say, configuring it is a slog, right? Because you basically have to program in all of your devices, and it knows stuff like Apple TVs and Rokus, and it will probably recognize your television. And it's that whole like, okay, I have this television, and it does that, but once it's all, and then you have to, give it access to all of your services. And once you do that, then it mashes that all together into one fairly effective environment.
So steep learning curve, a lot of setup, but once you have it, it sounds like it's kind of magical. And I mean, again, you've looked at so many of these products. I will trust you if you say this is the best experience you've had out of an attempted product.
You're going to have to be patient with it. For example, I have, if you're looking at the bell curve of sort of home theater systems, I run a projector and all of my equipment is in a closet behind the projector. So that is a bad thing for a Caavo, because they don't really do HDMI power control over CEC. They do IR. So I would actually have to do an IR blaster, and they come with some really actually fantastic. I mean, feel this. This is heft. This is style.
Oh, geez.
Look at the cables that come with
most IR blasters I just feel like air.
Yeah, and so they're making an effort to make a stylish, sophisticated-looking product that has some build quality to it, and I think they're in this for the long run, because the people that are kind of the driving force behind this have years of experience in dealing with things like Harmony and Xboxes and stuff like that.
I think like a lot of other companies that are trying to do something like this, it's all going to be about the Revision 2. Revision 1 is for early adopters. They've definitely got something on their hands here, but there are a couple of refinements like HDR and CEC control channel, which could really improve it.
They, in their experience, like basically talking to them about their experience, CEC power control for a lot of televisions does not work particularly well. Now, it's actually it's like one of the rare technologies that's been fairly flawless in my experience, but I also am not dealing with thousands of people and a product like this, so I'm going to take their word for it. The HDR support is something a lot of people will want, because it would be tough to buy a $400 device and
that doesn't support your brand new $3,000 TV.
Yeah, and I think there's sort of I think a lot of the people who are going to buy a $400 remote are the people who already have a $1,000 or $3,000 TV. And that's, that also puts it in perspective. When you can get a fairly badass 4K HDR television, for $650, a $400, even if it is, even if this is Jarvis, which for all intents and purposes it is, it just doesn't talk back to you in SAS. It just does what you want, which may make it better than Jarvis. You're still talking about a $400 device.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, are going to find that this technology, and I think you're right, especially as they move towards the next product, a less early adopter product, it is going to be amazing. Because right now, it's in we have done this amazing amount of work and brought together these huge, sophisticated technologies.
And it's this close. It's this close.
But it's like everything else, right? When they go to a gold test for a release of Windows, they release it to 74 billion people.
Oh, maybe that's a really bad example.
Well, okay. But my point being is there is no way to have a test lab large enough to test all of the possible combinations of devices and tuners and televisions and setups and AVRs and everything else. So at this point, I gotta say, there were a lot of annoying early adopter things. Like it would come back to sort of the wrong place inside of the HBO TV, the HBO Now. But for the most part, and of course, like I have a projector and it doesn't really work well with projectors, but I'm a projector guy and that's this much of the market, so deal with it, Patrick, which I'll do. I'll just get a different, IR blaster and I'll fix that problem. Lovely design. The voice control works. The voice control works. The voice control takes you to the television program you want to see. Can you see me being excited about this? Because that's really freaking cool.
This makes you, I see emotion. You're really happy about
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I'm gonna lean back into one of the old shows that we've put on the pile and just say, if someone was, and let's say that they're an early adopter, so let's put them in that category already. Is the Caavo a try, a buy, or a don't buy?
I think it's a try.
It's a try. Okay,
Yeah.
that's solid.
I think a lot of people, you know, it does what it says it does. In a year, it'll probably be a lot better at doing it after they get those 5,000 units out for 2018 and they are iterating and developing and making the firmware better and teaching it. I wanted to, my biggest complaint outside of not having HDR is I would like it to switch between things faster. And I think that is something that is going to happen as they do firmware updates. So, but you know, if you're the kind of person who's like, pink, 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 yeah. 7, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're tying a cow or something at the race when you're switching between programs. You know who you are. I mean, a friend of mine was like, no.
Am I missing a thing?
You're not missing a thing.
Okay.
They have cowboys in Hawaii. Just, you don't see them that often.
They're on the big. Actually, no. I know exactly where they are. I've seen the cows.
They're working. They're not running around at rodeos. But the whole point is, like, you have to be a little patient with this right now. And for a lot of people, you know, I'm going to spend a couple of hours watching Masterpiece Theater. Get me to the Delete Expert program immediately. You might find it a little frustrating. I also anticipate that this will be faster and faster as time goes by.
Right. And
I like it.
that.
I like it a lot.
Hey, look. If you can get Patrick excited about it, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Because again, you have seen a lot of this deck.
I have so many products,
lot of this deck.
So much bad idea in home theater. This is, I mean, this goes beyond anything we've ever seen in a home theater. It is an early adopter product. It is $400. You know, I mean, if you have a choice between, like, you know, getting a better television and getting this, I'd probably get the better television.
I mean, that's just that's the cost of a latte. I have no idea how much things cost.
That's approximately, well, $2.75 for a medium cup of coffee at Starbucks.
In Rome, that's like 400 coffees. Here, it's like
122.
Yeah, something like that. It's not great. It's not
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Patrick, thank you very much. Again, this is the Caavo.
This is the Caavo.
All the stuff you've had connected to the Caavo. This is available now, right?
I actually had more stuff connected to it.
Oh.
But there's only so much of my home theater I can
That you
tear
can
apart
carry
and
in
still
your bag.
be allowed back into the house when I get back.
Got it.
You know,
so right now your wife's at home going, why is nothing working?
I left the AVR at home, honey. Yeah, there'll be words. I know, let me say, it is really cool. There are a couple of big caveats, mostly that it doesn't do HDR, and you are going to have to be a little patient with certain features.
All right.
So,
Well, thank you
stop
very much
talking
for
now.
your review, and thank you very much for the in-depth look at what you think is the future of technology. Some people can be skeptical, but I expect this to be around and reiterated probably in about a year or so.
I see good things coming from Caavo.
Yeah.
I have faith.
Folks, it's time for one of my favorite parts of the new Screensavers, and that's when we invite you, our audience, our loyal listeners, the people who keep us here, to come in and call for help. We welcome Brian from Adrian, Michigan. Brian, by the way, you are only one of the people who's currently in the studio. We've also got two people from, well, they're from Detroit, but right now they live in an RV. They're traveling around the world. It's quite awesome. And I had a page that had your name, and I totally lost it. What are your names again? Jessica and Andrew. Thank you very much for joining us. But Brian, they're going to hold down the fort for Michigan. We want to talk to you about TVs.
I just got to say, I'm not laughing because of Michigan. I'm laughing because someone nearly beheaded themselves with a cable. Are you okay, sir? Okay. Because there was this moment, and all of a sudden there was hair and movement.
Hey,
and I was
look.
like, oh my God, medic!
Twit is a dangerous game, Patrick.
All television production is dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. No, but speaking of television production, you're in the market for a new TV, and there are a couple of features that you really, really want.
Yes, I'm actually replacing my 52-inch LCD. It's 8 years old. I swear it's getting darker by age, but you guys can probably confirm that that's actually true with LCD. What I'm looking at is a 65-inch OLED, possibly the Q7 QLED, because I hear it's brighter and has less reflection. It's going in a brighter living room. It's not it's not a dark room at all.
Well, let's start off with what you said at the beginning, which is it's getting dimmer. That's fully possible. It's not the LCD that's getting dimmer. It's actually the backlight. So the backlight is LED. And LEDs, like any other component, will wear down over time.
Or if you're really lucky, if it's like a CFL backlight, it's really old school. It will
actually 8 years. That might be
that you probably literally. It would not be surprising if it was 50% dimmer than what you started out with. That would not be unusual for a television.
The darks seem to be really dark.
Well, yeah,
and they were but it's like, you know, when you got the television, the dark, black was kind of gray. You know, this is the voyage of the Starship. Wow, I don't remember space being gray. Okay, Starship.
So when you sell this on Craigslist, what you want to say is the black levels are astounding. That's what you do.
Kuro-like black levels.
But we got to get some more information for you. So we know that you want an OLED. How much are you going to want to spend on this? And are you going to want any features like HDR? God forbid 3D. Give us the full rundown.
I don't need smart.
Good.
I do want HDR and I do want 4K.
Okay, nice. Yeah, thank you for saying that smart, by the way.
No, I don't. I use Apple TV.
Yeah.
That seems to work for me. It is the new 4K Apple TV, and my price range is around $2,500. The price, I can go up if I need to. The TV is important to our family. We love movie time. I love good quality. But obviously, I can always go down in price.
Well, it's a funny thing with a family. You can always go down in price. Kids, we can watch this television for another 5 years.
Or you could go to college.
So, So a couple things to talk about. One, 3D is essentially dead. There are some projectors that still support 3D. But for all intents and purposes, 3D no longer exists as a feature in new television sets. That's number one. Number two, if you're buying a new television set, unless this is something for like the rumpus room where you're going to watch sports ball and you expect one of your neighbors to throw a beer bottle through the screen, don't try to bother getting anything under 4K and without HDR, because kids, it's time to just embrace 4K and HDR. It is the new 1080p. Third thought that comes to mind is, unfortunately, there is no such thing as a non-smart television, but you, sir, Brian, have already figured out that all of the smart televisions will eventually suck if they don't suck already, because they're not going to update the operating systems, and you have an external box to plug into it. Yes! One of the best things we saw last year is TCL did a 55-inch television last year that blew everybody's socks off. And one of the things we're waiting for right now is the 6 series from TCL, which is just starting to ship. And last year they did a 55-inch and last year they did a 55-inch only. They were supposed to do a 55-inch and a 65-inch. And TCL, they make all their own stuff. They're vertically integrated. And they were pumping out so many 55-inch televisions. They were like, we would have to shut down the line to build 65-inch televisions, and we're selling all the 55-inch televisions we can build. We're not going to build 65-inch televisions. So they promised us this year that they are actually going to have the 55-inch and the 65-inch 6 series for $649 for the 55-inch and $1,000 for the 65-inch. And see if I can get a bigger picture of that. So that's the TCL 55R17 55-inch 4K Ultra HD Roku Smart LED TV 2018 model. I love reading YouTube titles because I'm a damaged human being. Sorry. Yeah. And actually, I don't think this was up last week, but it looks like the 65-inch version is available for $1,000 now. Those are two, should be, we haven't had a chance to test them yet. Those should be amazing for the money if they are anything like last year's TCL.
Now you could get a Samsung or an LG 65-inch and OLED model for about $2,500, but it really is going to be right there at $2,500. In fact, the tax is probably going to put it over. What Patrick is talking about are other options that, honestly, from my experience at CES, look just as good.
Yeah. Well, I also like to start from the bottom and work my way up. You know, one of the best bargains out there right now, because if you're looking at I would probably. The Samsung Q stuff is really good, and as you mentioned, they're doing on some of the Samsung televisions, they are doing a sort of a matte finish or a non-light reflective finish. So if you have a room with light reflecting issues, that would be a strong point. The colors in those are looking really good. The best colors we've seen so far are still on the Samsung OLEDs, and the B8 is going to be kind of their entry-level model, which is not going to have quite the same processing as this, like I want to say the C8 and the higher level models. But if you feel like getting a bargain, last year's B7s, which essentially have the same processing as the $7,000 and $8,000 OLEDs, last year's C7 is selling for like $1,500 for a 55-inch version and $2,500 for the 65-inch version, which would be pretty much all of your budget. That's an amazing, that 55-inch especially is a fantastic deal. I would need to double check the pricing on the 65-inch because a couple weeks ago the 65-inch wasn't available.
Yeah.
Is any of this helping? Because I'm also talking really fast.
Looking into this, the OLED and QLED are pretty similar, but it's not the same as a LED. The QLED and the OLED, aren't those usually brighter, sharper images?
Right. So they're different technologies. When you're dealing with an LED television, you've got a backlight that's shining through the active element, the LCD. OLED, it is the active element. So you're actually creating the light in the proper wavelength from every single pixel. So it's vastly different technologies, which is also why OLED is more expensive. QLED is really just a marketing term, honestly.
Well, it's so in 2017, TCL got all the cheap television honors. Like everybody went, this is the best affordable television for everybody. The Wirecutter and the rest of the planet, Robert Heron, me, everybody, right? And then for everybody was like, what is the best image quality you can get? It's OLED. And it's part because the way our eyes evolved was less to, I want to be able to recognize all the colors on the planet and more dealing with contrast. Because when you're trying not to be eaten by a cheetah while you're sleeping in the jungle 10,000 years ago, you recognize contrast, and our eyes evolved to recognize contrast more. And I'm telling this long story because essentially the better the contrast is on the television, the more fantastical the television is going to be, especially when you started getting to HDR, where you do things like, wow, we can have detail in dark sections and detail in bright sections. So the OLED televisions, because organic light emitting diodes, when they switch off, they go black. And black is amazing. Like, you know, if you've ever heard people talk about, you know, the Kuro TVs from years and years and years ago, Kuro's had the most amazing black levels. Yesterday, I'm still using my 9-year-old Kuro TV because nothing is as amazing as that has been. So the OLED TVs will give you sort of the better overall image quality. They are amazing. They are also not inexpensive, which is why I brought up, you know, you're looking at, this is a
they're way less expensive than they were when they first came out at CES. Where like a 7-inch screen would cost you $1,000. But yes, there's definitely a difference in the price. Also, if you're going to have an OLED TV, it's probably going to have a higher feature set than just a high-end LCD TV. So a lot of those features that you're looking for are probably going to be baked in. HDR is still one of these features where they are baking them into more and more sets, but the standard is still slightly in flux.
Well,
I mean, that's
you want
the problem
HDR10 support.
Yeah.
You know, you want, you know, Dolby support. There are several other standards that are not going to matter as much probably ever, but you know, for me, you know, if you want absolute image quality, I would say OLED. You know, you were kind of bagging on the Q stuff.
Well, QLED is just LED.
Well, it's LED, you know, with additional technology to make the colors more saturated, but it doesn't hit the black levels of the OLEDs. There are some LEDs coming from Samsung, maybe late this year, maybe next year, that will deliver all of the sort of contrast and image and darkness qualities that the LG OLEDs deliver. But if you can swing an OLED, I would probably do that if I wanted to sort of buy one television and not think about it for the next few years. If you want to spend less money, those TCL TVs should be fantastic for the money.
How are the TCLs with a bright room or reflection? Are they matted screen or?
Pretty good. Very few screens are actually matted screens, and a lot of the matted screens. I mean, it was funny because we just did a question on Tech Thing last week where somebody had an issue where they'd moved to a new place and had really bad reflections, and you know you can't use dulling spray because the dulling spray will basically ruin your monitor. There are what are basically giant phone screen protector type film materials that are dulling. I talked to one of the people from one of those companies. They're like, yeah, you know, if you have an issue where like you're seeing the couch or somebody's leg reflected in the monitor, that will make that go away. If you have bright sunshine streaming through a window, like the classic ridiculous example would be like the corner penthouse apartment in Miami, or if you just have really bright sunshine, it is almost impossible to eliminate glare from the sun because the sun is so bright and it dumps so much light onto the surface of the planet. In that case, curtains are probably going to be your best shot.
You can just do what I do. I have blackout curtains everywhere. I live basically in the darkness. But my TV looks awesome.
Brian's like, no.
I have a family. They like to see the sun.
They can see the sun when they're not watching television. But most of these will deal reasonably well with a bright room. But if you're like, If you're talking about summer, high noon, light reflecting through the window, it's time to pull the curtains.
Well, Brian, I think the takeaway is really, though, don't be afraid of what we used to consider the low-end sets.
Yeah.
You know, you can get some great TCL and Vizio sets that will compete with the LG and the Samsungs, and they'll be so much less expensive, and you'll be just as happy. Does that help at all?
Well, if I do want HDR.
Yeah,
Not
those
all TVs have HDR.
Yeah, every TV I've discussed here
has HDR.
Has HDR.
HDR, okay.
Even even that $650 55-inch television from TCL, which also runs Roku as an operating system, which is pretty good. Dolby Vision HDR, decent backlighting, wide color gamma with TCL's NBP photon technology. That sounds a little marketing to me.
I like photons.
I love photons. They're like light personified. But all of these, this is supporting Dolby Vision. It's going to work with your UHD Blu-ray player. It's got Roku built into it, which if you're going to deal with an operating system on a television, Roku is pretty much the way to go. If you want to ignore it, you can just plug your Apple TV into there and you'll be fine.
And for the price of an LG or a Samsung, you could buy 2 of these and just have 265 side by side.
And if you want to go for, you could also, and then Sony's got OLED televisions, which are using LG's panels, but Sony's processing technology. But they're pretty amazing, but you're also looking at about $2,500 for a 55-inch television. And I will tell you, no matter what anybody in the house says, buy the biggest television you can buy for the budget you have, because the resolutions are so high on 4K. It's amazing the difference going with a larger screen.
65 is a nice spot, though.
65 is a great spot.
Unless you live in an auditorium.
I would go bigger, but from what I can tell, past 65 inches, it continues to go up in price.
Yeah, I mean, there are some inexpensive 75-inch panels, but I would probably say concentrate on 65-inch or wait another year for 4K projectors to get much better than they are now, or much more affordable. Like a 4K projector at 100 or 120-inch screen is going to be amazing, but most of the 4K projectors right now are kind of like, what?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Especially if you're looking at like a 4K projector that can do the very short throw that you'd want in a TV room.
Depends on the room.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but everything we talked about from those entry-level TCL televisions all the way up through the top of the line OLED and Samsung stuff, those are all ready for HDR. They should be all ready for most of the HDR.
Right.
But that's also an emerging thing that we won't get into right now because everybody will go to sleep in the chat room. So
you still look very unconvinced.
I think this is a very serious man.
There's just a lot of choices out there.
There are too many. I mean, the short version would be like buy a TCL for $650 or $1,000, or buy the best LG OLED you can afford. That would be my short one. And you can also, if you can get eyeballs on them, take a look at some of the Samsung, or excuse me, the Sony OLEDs, but those are going to be more of a premium. I'd also say, do you have a Costco or a Best Buy anywhere near you?
Yeah, both.
Okay, I love walking into Costco because, hey, hot dogs for $1.50 with a soda. And B, it can be incredibly educational to just like go there, spend 20 minutes, and it's the worst environment to look at a television, right? Because they're all set to atomic level brightness, which is nothing that you actually want running in your home. But it can be amazing to sit next to a $3,500 television and a $1,000 television and be like, can I really see the difference between these two? And ironically, the stuff they use to demonstrate those in big box stores may be the worst possible things for showing the awesomeness of the expensive TV versus the not quite as awesomeness of the more affordable TV. But look at those and think like, do I really see why? You know what I mean? You may find yourself,
yeah, you're not gonna.
Robert Herron could be like, my God, look at the contrast ratios and the superior. You know what I mean? Like, but Robert spends all of his time configuring and calibrating television.
Yeah, and if you're gonna buy one of those super expensive TVs, you really do need to hire someone like a Robert Herron to come over and calibrate it for your viewing space, because that's actually what you're paying for. So get the TCL.
Wow. We just saved you like $1,500, man, I swear.
Where do you get a TCL?
TCL, they're sold on Amazon. They should be in Costco. They should be in Best Buy. They're like the number 3 with a bullet television manufacturer in the United States. What's ironic is nobody knew they existed in the United States till a few years ago. And last year, with that 55-inch television what everybody was looking at, their profile became kind of huge in the United States. So,
Brian, I hope we helped you, and we'll send you back on your way. And you got to report when you actually do buy a set, because we want to know how you're going to use it.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Thank you for calling for help. Now, folks, next week, Leo Laporte will be back here with Kevin Rose. That's right. He's done fighting robots, and Kevin won't be throwing any more raccoons down steps, but they are here to answer your questions, and this is how you ask.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Now, Patrick, we've been at this for a long time. So you remember when Gmail first came out and it was in quote-unquote beta for
for the next 8
long.
years, 9, 12.
And, you know, it was
Might still be in beta. No, wait, it actually exited
That's right.
beta.
No, it did. It did. They officially removed it from beta like a decade after it started.
That seems smart to me.
That's kind of awesome. But do you remember when it first came out? It had some interesting features that have matured over the years, and now it's just become kind of an email client. It just does its thing, and it's been the same.
It's my email client.
It is your email client.
It's how I make sure Google knows everything about my personal life.
Yeah, but the thing is, do you know everything about Google? But we had our very own Android/Google expert, Jason Howell, take a look at the new Gmail.
Gmail could go down as one of, if not the biggest success stories of Google's famous 20% time philosophy. For years, Google encouraged its employees to spend 20% of their time developing ideas outside of their regular projects. You probably already heard about that. Gmail was one of those. And to say it's a staple in the world of cloud-based and free email would be an understatement. But for a service that's so important to Google's business, it really took its time updating the look and feel and features of the service. Thankfully, Google finally released a new version of the web service along with an updated app releasing to mobile in the coming weeks. Let's take a look at the new design and some of the key new features. First, the design itself. Take a look at the old, sad design of the old Gmail. It looks positively old school. Sure, it's utilitarian, but come on, we need bubbly round corners and animations, or at least that's how Google felt. I'll head up to Gmail settings, and tucked in there, you'll find an option called Try the New Gmail. Clicking that refreshes the page and shows Gmail's all-new interface, along with the option to choose how densely the information is displayed. You want to take a look at this and choose the one that works for you. It's very nice to have those options. Now, as you can see, like I said, throughout the layout, you've got big rounded buttons like this compose button that hovers over the background, animations when doing things like showing and hiding your labels on the left-hand side. You also have a new toolbar on the right side that shows select add-ons that open their own workspace once clicked, which is really handy. Calendar, for example, taps right into your own calendar, of course. Keep is up there as well. That's your quick go-to for dropping in notes on the fly while you're working. And the all-new updated version of Tasks is there too for creating lists and to-dos and whatever else you want to put in there to keep track of yourself. All of these, of course, sync to your mobile apps as you'd expect, but having them embedded like this in the Gmail experience is meant to make you even more productive while keeping you from having to open separate windows to do all that stuff. Notice also that hovering over my emails in my primary inbox reveals actions on the emails themselves that can be taken without having to dive into them. I can archive, delete, mark it as unread, and snooze is there as well. I can snooze for later, so it'll leave this view and then come back when I'm ready to deal with it for good. Much of this seems to be directly inspired from Google's other email app, Inbox. That happens to be the app that I'm most used to using these days, and these quick controls are a lifesaver. I'm telling you, it really makes email management less mundane. A few other things Gmail lifted from its Inbox product. First, Smart Replies. You may have already seen these before. Those are those short and sweet AI-generated reply options that actually, I think, do a pretty great job composing a response for you if it just needs to be 1 or 2 words. Also, the nudging feature that will resurface emails that it thinks might need a follow-up, which I found to be incredibly useful. Maybe it comes back 7 days later and says, hey, you want to check in on this? A big part of the update centers on security, as shown by the announcement of a new upcoming feature called Confidential Mode. Now, with it, you're going to be able to control access rights to the emails that you send to other Gmail users. It's going to work like this. You compose an email and tap the confidential mode button in the toolbar down below, where you're then allowed to set an expiration date for the email, as well as possibly turn on two-factor authentication, requiring a code for the recipient to access it. When that email is actually received on the other end, the recipient isn't actually getting their own email. They're getting short-term access to the mail that's stored still in your own email box. Access that can be revoked by you at any time. That might not stop someone from, let's say, taking a picture of the screen, but it will keep Johnny from accidentally sharing critical business information with the wrong people. Oh, Johnny, not again. That feature is going to be coming in a couple of weeks, but for now, make sure to turn on the new Gmail interface and check out all the changes that are already there for yourself, because Gmail really needed a little something special, and that's exactly what it's delivering. I'm Jason Howell, and you can catch me on All About Android, Tech News Weekly, and a whole lot of other shows here on the network, twit.tv.
Well, thank you, Jason. It's always nice to see that Google is still improving their products, especially since, they kill all their other ones. Yeah, I think what they really need is they need another messaging app. Really, or maybe 2 or 3. I think that would make everything better.
No, I'm not going to rise to that bait. I will not be baited into this conversation.
It's fun because I get to sit right next to Jason in the host room, and every once in a while he just kind of shakes his head because there's another announcement of another product Google has killed after releasing just a couple of months ago, and it's kind of a predictable cycle now.
All I can think of right now is you're saying this, and all I'm thinking is, they're still letting FeedBurner run.
That's true.
Really got to move my feeds off of FeedBurner, but they're working. Therefore, I don't want to fix them.
Yeah. Well, we'll let them do their thing. We're going to do our thing, and that means we're going to the mailbag. Mailbag. I actually get to open this thing. This is awesome. Oh no. Are we playing with security cameras? Oh, it's the little toaster bot.
Is it actually working from inside the can?
Yeah, it totally is. Look.
That's really impressive.
It's running off of a little portable battery, which, by the way, I swear to goodness, this looks like the little robot from Rick and Morty that butters toast. Toastbot. Okay. So let's put the Toastbot back in here, and I'm going to let you pick one of these. What do you want?
I should probably read the one that's addressed to you.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. And actually, why don't you go first?
Father, you mentioned you don't subscribe to Amazon Music Unlimited, but instead upload your own musical collection to Amazon and listen using Amazon's devices. I do the same on various phones, Kindle Fires, and Echoes throughout the house. However, Amazon is retiring the ability within the next year. Any suggestions regarding what to use going forward? I have a large collection of MP3s uploaded and like the convenience of telling the Echo what to play. I think Google Home has similar functionality, but I'd prefer not to replace all my Echoes with Google Homes if there's any other options. Thanks, Tim.
Tim, there's a long answer and there's a short answer to this, and both of them are kind of meh. So Synology, if you've got a Synology NAS like this is one of their DS713s, you can run Audio Station. So Audio Station runs as a plugin on the Linux operating system that is on this, and it kind of becomes the repository. It's your iTunes for all your media. Now, Synology has also made a plugin for all of their Echo variants for Audio Station. So if you install that, theoretically, it can access anything. You would just say, tell Audio Station to play Let It Snow, and it will go through your inventory.
Oh, the what? Wait, I can't sing. We'll get charged.
Yeah, we'll get charged.
Sorry.
It's a Disney product, remember. Now, here's the thing, though. If you go to that page on Amazon right now and look for the Synology skill, you will see it has an average score of about 1 star. And that's because they sell it as if it's a really easy thing to do. It's not. You have to have DSM version 6.2 or greater. You have to have an authentication server running on your NAS. You have to have Quick Connect running and know the address and the authentication to get in. And then you have to install the skill. Now, here's the thing. If you can follow that, and if you can actually do the steps, it works exceptionally well, and it will work from anywhere. So I've got my Synology running at home, and any Echo I've got anywhere in the world, including the one I currently have in Rome, will come back to that NAS and pull media off of it. But setting it up to do that was kind of a pain in the butt.
Plus, you also have to own a NAS.
Right, yeah. I'm using a Synology. Because remember, even if you're using a Synology, it's actually, and you're running it from the same network that the NAS is on, because you're going through Amazon service, you go out and then back in, which, again, is kind of a pain. What are you showing off?
My media for Alexa. which is essentially a dedicated application to allow you to host your files locally and stream them to your Alexa devices in your house. Or kids, if you have a computer, try Plex.
Yeah. Plex works exceptionally well.
Plex works exceptionally well, and you do have to give up some personal information to get access to Plex these days in a way you didn't have to in the past. But I would basically say, rather than, if you don't have a NAS already, I mean, I've got an 8-bay NAS at home because I'm a freak. I also have a projector on the ceiling, and I like CEC, so who knows what my damage is. But setting up a Plex media server or some kind of open media server and connecting that to the Echo. But I hear also, for people who are Echo enthusiasts, I hear good things about My Media for Alexa.
Yeah. So. There is one other alternative, and this is the one that I did before any of these things were available.
Going to vinyl!
Actually, I'd love to go to vinyl. That'd be incredible. No, it was, so these Synology NASs can also run containers. So I ran a container running Windows, running a media service that I ran on the container inside of, that works. Don't do it that way. Really, please don't do it that way.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Now, if you want to see the way that I do it, what you want to do is pay attention to know-how, because we are actually doing a series on Synology Madness. So we're doing some fun tricks with a NAS that you might already own. And if you do have a Synology box, or if you're thinking about getting one, I mean, this one is just $200, you can follow the tutorial. I will take you step by step on how you can connect your Echo to your Synology NAS.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So
I like Synology NAS boxes.
I kind of do. I mean, I've used QNAP. I used to be a big ReadyNAS fan, and then Netgear bought them and kind of killed the brand. What do you use?
I have two Synology NASs.
Synology, yeah.
And there's a Synology NAS that we use at Hack5 for all of our video storage and backups.
They're quiet, they're fast, they run forever. I haven't lost one single Synology NAS, and that includes the ones I have in my IO safe. Thank you. The fireproof ones. All right, here we go. This one's a video question, so here's Mitchell.
Hi guys, I hope you can help me. I need a recommendation for a relatively inexpensive smartphone. I'm guessing $500. I've always had unlocked smartphones and I had a Galaxy S2, a Galaxy S5, which got lost, didn't have location on. My Moto G4 Plus, which just died a hard death, it lost the charge because I must have plugged it in the wrong way and it fried itself. My wife has a Samsung Galaxy Note 8. She loves it, but she won't let me unlock it. At any rate, hopefully something that has a decent case, decent performance, isn't 2 years old or 3 years old, and will allow me to survive. Primarily on AT&T, occasionally on T-Mobile, and possibly in the future Verizon. I don't know, but thank you so much. Have a great day, and give me a call if you have questions. Thanks again.
All right, so this is increasingly hard to do. The new flagship from Samsung does have an SD card slot, but you wanted $500, that's $400 more than you're willing to spend. You could also get a Note 8, and you can actually start getting those at reduced prices. That also has an SD card slot. But what we've seen is this trend not to include it, both because more of these phones are coming with a ridiculous amount of storage as is, and also manufacturers are very wary of SD cards, because if you buy, let's say, a not great SD card, or even a good SD card, and you get vibration, or you get a data mismatch, you could very easily corrupt that card, and that's kind of why they fell out of favor.
Really?
Yeah. I had that happen to a couple of cards when I was still running a Samsung, what was it, a 4, I think Galaxy 4. And now there are a couple that are in your price range. The LG, it's like a V30 has an SD card slot. The Honor, which I think is a Huawei phone, also has a card slot, and those are going to be more down in your price range. But here's the thing I would actually ask back to you. Why is it that you need an SD card? I mean, I understand.
More storage.
Yeah, more storage. But I mean, some of these phones you can get with 256 gigabytes of storage.
Maybe he swaps out media.
Again, and see, that's what I'd want to know.
Yeah.
If he's swapping out, like he has movie cards that he uses for when he's traveling, I get that. I understand that. But if that's the case, all of the new phones, including the super low budget ones, like $400, $500 OnePlus phones, will use USB-C to connect to an external device that you can use as your external storage for that.
On one hand, I totally agree that USB-C can be amazing, but I hate to buy, outside of the iPhones that have been dominating my life for so long, I hate to buy an Android device without an SD card, simply because I know at some point in the future, what seems like a tremendous amount of storage now will seem like practically nothing in 2 or 3 years.
See, that's where I used to be. I absolutely used to be like that, except I've had fixed storage phones for the last, 7 years.
Right.
And never once have I gotten even close to filling up the
See, I've got 118 gigabytes on a 128 gigabyte phone right now. I roll large.
What
with
do
the
you do with
There's
your
like
phone?
pictures and media, a lot of high resolution audio, a lot of a lot of FLAC audio, a lot of movie captures. There's just a whole bunch of stuff.
So you use it as a production device?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. But I mean, for a person who's not using it as like the third camera in a 3-camera setup,
right?
That's a lot of storage to burn through.
Well, I also like to have my entire media collection and not have to stream it. But that's a whole other conversation. Can
I interest you in a NAS that
Not
you can
until
reach from anywhere in the world?
No.
Okay.
Because in my case, the problem is I end up in a lot of places where I cannot stream what I want to hear.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Or I cannot even access, Google Maps. And literally, I can take you 10 minutes from here, and the connectivity, the mobile connectivity dies. One thing to think about when you're looking at cases. There's some stuff called Amfilm. Amfilm makes screen protectors that are on Amazon.
Yeah.
Amfilm is amazing. I stopped when I started putting Amfilm screen covers on my iPhones. I stopped breaking screens, which I think is fantastic because they're stupid cheap and they make them for everything. In terms of like OtterBoxes, a lot of the other cases, a lot of the high-end cases aren't so high-end anymore, which is really frustrating. And in terms of buying a mid-range phone, if you stick to Samsung or LG or Motorola, you can probably find third-party cases. As you get into Xiaomi and Huawei, you find fewer third-party case options. Just something to think about. If you, like me, tend to destroy phones because you exist, you might want to make sure there are actual decent third-party cases available for the phone before you buy that particular brand of phone.
Yeah.
Or buy the insurance.
And I would say if you are dead set on having an SD card and you don't want to pay the $900 for an S9 or $700 for a Note, then you're probably going to be best to go with something like the Honor or the Huawei Mate. Those are going to be in your price range. They do have SD card slots, and they are decent phones. Although right now we're having a little spat with Chinese companies. So
are we having a spat, or
we're not having a spat? We're the royal we. We're having a spat.
I don't know. I had a funny conversation with someone who was like, "You can't buy Chinese manufacturers good anymore." I'm like, other than your laptop, your television,
everything
your
that has
phone.
a light.
Yeah, I mean, I get where Congress is going, but
we had a question.
Made in China, made in China,
made in China,
made in China, made in China, made in China. Your router also made in China.
Made in China.
Yeah. No kidding?
No, I'm just kidding. No, but I will say.
I thought. Wait a minute.
I'm a spy.
I knew it.
I will say that, look, we had a question on New Screensavers kind of like this a while ago when someone said, I want a phone, but I don't want any part of it to be made in China. And, the answer was
not going to happen.
Good luck.
Yeah. You can find consumer electronics that are assembled in the United States. Some of them may even be assembled mostly with parts made in the United States. I can think of some companies, I can think of some audio companies, Mr. Speakers comes to mind, Shit comes to mind. Several other manufacturers that make all of their stuff in the United States, but I guarantee some of those subcomponents, whether they're the ICs or the resistors or the capacitors, are made in China.
It's the global world that we live in. I'm sorry. That's just how it's going to work.
It's all about supply chains.
Patrick Norton,
Robert.
It's been an absolute pleasure. This is probably going to be the last New Screensavers I do with you just because I'm heading out, but it has been just my privilege, my
Answer
honor.
the call of the Pope and go to the Vatican and leave me.
Hey, look.
He left me for the Pope, people.
I represented.
That.
I represented, okay, when I was standing there and I was like, look, I'm going to miss working with Twit and Patrick Norton. And that gave him pause. And he's like,
I'm sure.
No, still, come on over. But you know what? You have an open invitation. Anytime you want to come to Rome, you stay at my
I want to go
place.
see the Vatican.
Yeah.
I'm down.
And if you come in about 8 months, I should have all the secret keys and handshakes that I need to get into the cool places.
I just want to see Java Man. That's all I want to see. Take me down to the crypt where I can see all the good stuff that was hidden.
Oh, Patrick, where can people find you? What are you working on these days?
Oh my goodness, I'm still doing Tech Thing, TEKTHING, the weekly show I host with Shannon where we talk about technology. For example, We figure out. We tell you what the best NAS drive is this week.
Go buy stuff.
The Dell 27, that ultra thin S monitor is fantastic. Shannon went crazy on the Lulzbot Taz 6. We talk about tech. We answer questions. It probably seems really familiar. That was the barbecue episode, which was delicious, but not nearly as tech-filled. And also I do AVXL, which is a weekly podcast with Robert Heron, where we talk about home theater and audio. Everything from televisions, headphones, speakers, AVR, all that kind of stuff. I highly recommend it. That's avexcel.com. And someday I'll change that picture. But, you know, I'm just jamming on my minimalist aesthetic there.
You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a school bus. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
School bus.
Now, don't forget, Leo Laporte will be back next week. We're going to be bringing you an all-new, the new Screensavers, again, all with Kevin Rose, so you know you need to tune in. Until then, I'm Father Robert Ballecer saying goodbye from the new Screensavers.